Hey, ladies, welcome back to the Rebel Tribe podcast, where we defy the norm, own our brilliance, and rewrite the rules for what life after 40 is supposed to look like. Today's guest is someone who lives and breathes reinvention. Carrie Helms is a midlife reinvention alchemist. And trust me, ladies, we're going to explore that more because I didn't know what it was either. She's an international speaker, she's a best-selling author, and she is the guiding light behind countless women who are reclaiming their joy and their clarity. So if you've ever wondered how to move from what now to this is what I was made for, you are in for a powerful and heart-opening conversation. So let's dive in. Carrie, welcome.
Thank you so much. I love that intro. Thank you so much for synopsizing what I'm up to. I really appreciate it.
So let's get right to it because, like I said, I had no idea what midlife reinvention alchemist was until I started reading all about you. And I love it, by the way. What inspired you to take that title and what does it mean to you?
Well, first of all, I have to say thank you so much for having me here today. I love what you're up to. I love how you're supporting women to live outside of the box that we've been put in. So just recently, I'm realizing that my internet is going in and out. So let's see what we can do about turning the video back on. So I started off as a career purpose coach, but with a background in human resources and a background in somatic psychotherapy. But I began to realize that the women that were coming to me were actually in a state of reinvention of their whole life. So it wasn't just their career, they were reevaluating their whole situation. So, alchemist, because I began to realize that it's about turning our difficulties into gold. So we all have challenges, right? It's just a willingness to look at it with a new frame, to cultivate the lessons, find the inspiration. And in like my own personal circumstance was financial betrayal and how I turned that into a sense of feminine empowerment and in helping other women to understand what is it that they desire? What is it they need? What is it that they to put themselves first?
I love that. I love that you took all of your experience, HR, executive, therapist, all of that, and you used it to shape
Mhm.
how you help women reinvent themselves. Was there a specific moment maybe in your life that made you say, this is it. This is what I was meant to do?
Hmm. Actually, it was early on. I was one of those uh, young gals that I was reading a book on the beach called Cybernetics, and it was how we use our mind and our self-talk are you familiar with the book?
I was going to say, have we not all read that book?
Right. So I can distinctly remember early on, I was reading those kind of books. When my friends were oogling the boys, I was sitting there on the beach reading this. And it really helped. It made me feel like, okay, I wanted to do that, but I got talked out of it. By well-meaning people, there was like, why would you do that? In order to, if you were interested in psychology, you're going to have to go get a master's. That's costly. How are you going to afford it? All of those things. So I left it on the back burner for a number of years. And I began to realize in a heart math meditation, it's something that I take my clients through, that I had left something undone and that I'd always wanted to, so went through a 12-year career in human resources. And it wasn't until I guess at that time, my son was a toddler that I gave myself permission to ask, what would I really love? Not what's expected of me, but what would I really love? That's when I went back to school. But then I realized that it wasn't psychotherapy that was so interesting to me. It was discovering what made people tick and how we can live into our highest possibility. And so that's why I turned it into coaching and also energy work.
So you talk a lot about helping women awaken their inner wisdom, which I think is crucial for someone who feels disconnected or stuck. What's the first step towards doing that?
Yeah, if we call it the first baby step towards doing that, is actually checking with your body. So, one of the first things that I have my clients do, no matter whether they're needing help in a business or they're wanting greater clarity about their relationships or their career, next career step. I always ask them to do a vision blueprint. And there's two sides of this. It's tuning into your body's messages and paying attention. Is this a heck yes, which your body feels more like, yeah, it feels connected, or is it a shutdown? So is it something that's drawing you in, or is it like a repulsion? Because both sides of that actually help you to see what it is that you do want. I'll give you an example. I was working with a client recently, and she was like, I can't handle this. They're not respectful at work. They don't seem to see me. What I, when I put out recommendations. So I said, okay, so what you're looking for, thank you for telling me what you don't want, but pay attention because often that's easy enough for us to do. But what is it that it's pointing to? So you're wanting respect. You're wanting to be heard and witnessed, and you want to be actually able to share and to be to have the impact that you're desiring. She goes, yeah, that. So often it's out, right?
That's awesome. But you probably couldn't put it into words, I'm sure, until you started making her look at it. That's
No, she really couldn't because she was so entrenched in what she didn't like, what was wrong. And it's a biological imperative, I'll say, because our brain is always scanning the horizon for the threat, right? But there's no longer the saber-toothed tiger. So I help women actually reprogram their mind so that they can be on the lookout for the good that's happening, or at least begin to transform it into the good.
so how I know we haven't really talked about this yet, but I really want to because I'm struggling with this with some of my own ladies.
Mhm.
How do we get them to stop looking at all the possible things that could not work and start looking for the opportunities that are everywhere?
Yeah. That's that. I remember I was telling you, Melody, Ann, about the visioning
Hmm.
exercise.
Hmm.
So, for those of you who haven't had an opportunity to ever write down your vision blueprint, it's something that I learned to do, and let's see, a number of years ago, 2010, I guess, as a dream builder coach. Um, it's really helpful for you to understand what is it that you desire, not what your partner desires, not what society expects of you, not even what your kids are clamoring for your attention, but what is it that lights you up? And it's primarily in the four areas of health and well-being. It's career and creativity, time, money, freedom. Like, how do you want to be spending your time, your XX time, or and then also, let's see, what did I miss? Health and well-being. I missed one of them. So this is something I do on a day-to-day basis. So health and relationships, duh. So that ability for you to be able to say, what's calling me? And once you understand what your vision is, once you understand what your values are, then you can use that as like a discernment process. It's like the filter. And we've all done this, right? Like when we've looked out and we've looked for a new car. I was looking for a turquoise car, and my husband says, "Well, what kind of a car?" And I said, "I think like a turquoise SUV." He goes, "Well, like what? You want a Honda?" Do I don't know. I want it to work. Um,
Yeah, I just want it to be turquoise and an SUV. You take care of
right,
the
right.
rest.
So, so then every other car on the road was turquoise, right? Because my mind then was filtering through the many pieces of information and it was finding that thing that I was looking for. So really it's a very powerful process to get clear on what lights you up because we all have a little bit different fingerprint. So I would say that that would help then to kind of narrow the playing field so that women don't have to feel like so overwhelmed with all the options. They get clear on yes, that's at least a step in the right direction.
Okay, so as someone who totally just reinvented her life at like about 40ish when my dad passed, and then is doing it again now at 68, and knowing the looks and comments I get when I say, "Yeah, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm doing this now." Okay.
Mhm.
What are some of the biggest myths and misconceptions that you think are out there about midlife reinvention? Why is it so hard for us?
Okay. So number one, I think you had mentioned something like other caring so much about other people's opinions, right? Like wanting to be the good girl, is maybe, and here's the thing, we're actually paying more attention to what's going on than other people. So it's just a matter of basically having the courage to say, this is what direction I'm taking right now. I'll give you an example. My mom recently passed last year, and I was doing career purpose coaching up until then. And I began to realize, is that really what, or no, excuse me, I was doing more business coaching with career purpose coaching on the side. And I've gone back and forth between the two. And then I realized having a meaningful life is so important. And that's where I want to be, the my legacy moving forward. So that ability to have the courage to say, this is the direction I'm going to go. Then the second part of this is also, oh, and there was a quote. I actually wrote this down because I wanted, and it was by Brene Brown. She says, if you are not in the arena getting your ass kicked on an occasion, I am not interested in or open to your feedback. There are a million cheap seats in the world today filled with people who will never be brave with their own lives, but will spend every ounce of energy they have hurling advice and judgment at those of us who dare greatly. And that to me was like, yes, we're leaders, right? To step outside of the norm. Um, the second part to this is the not enoughness. And it's all these different versions of how we've told ourselves that we're not young enough would be one of the versions of that. We're just too old to make changes. My husband just finished his degree, his undergrad degree to teach in the classroom at 63, right?
I
And
know.
I have another client who at 70 graduated with her master's in psychotherapy because she had always wanted to do it. So it was never too late. And yet, and again, we just need to know the what. We don't need to know the how necessarily to figure it all out. And that's the defining vision blueprint that I was talking about. So we tell ourselves, oh, I don't know how to do this. I don't have enough skills. And very rarely do people actually have to go back to school for them. They can ask for what they need.
So how does that, because I heard you talking about the whole not enoughness, and I actually like that terminology because I see that all over the place. I mean, it's insane. I'm too fat, or I'm too thin, or I'm not educated enough, or I'm too young, or I'm too all of these things. How does getting past all that and developing a good sense of your own self-worth, how does that tie into creating your next chapter, a joyful, meaningful next chapter? So many women out there they hit my age. I'm 68. They hit my age and they're like, that's it, I'm done. Okay. I'm retired now. I'm done. I'm old. I'm going to sit home and rock on the porch with my cat. Life is over. And I'm creating a whole new chapter for myself, like right now, even as we speak. So how does that how does that work? What makes me different than them? Okay, how's that? What makes me different than all of them?
I almost want to turn the tables and say, so how were you able to do it?
I don't know. I just a long time ago actually had this conversation because I'm about to start on a big collaboration with somebody. And it was just, we were talking about that because out of the blue, we've known each other for a very long time, many years. And then we kind of lost touch with each other. And out of the blue, he called me the other day and he's like, we need to catch up. Let's chat. And so we hopped on a Zoom together and found out that he's working on pretty much the same thing I am, but just on a different, like a different approach. And by the time we were done, we have this whole big collaboration plan that we're working on. And it's just like we were talking about, what are the odds that he would just out of nowhere decide, I haven't talked to her in like 3 years. I should, and that we would be working on the same things with two different approaches that mesh so well together. And it's like once you find this thing that you're supposed to do, and that's what I try to teach my folks, is once you find this thing, I believe that we're all put here for a purpose. And once you just open yourself up and accept whatever the heck your purpose is and open yourself to it, God, the universe, spirit, whatever you call it, they are going to conspire to help you get there. And that's why it's working for me, because I just finally said, this is what I'm supposed to do. And now, like I said, it's basically just falling in my lap. I'm meeting the right people. The opportunities are everywhere. And it's just amazing. But I don't question anymore. I just like, oh, thank you. Okay. Thank you, whoever. Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Right. I love what you just said. Can I feed back to you kind of like what I saw the stages of what you were talking about?
You may.
So I heard you spoke it into being. Like you said, this is what I'm going to do. And then the universe listens, right? I like to say there's three levels of commitment. One is writing it down, or one's thinking about it. The next one is writing it down. The third is actually saying, I'm going to do this. Like in your case, it was like this doing the podcast and helping people the way that you do. For me, it was a number of years ago, I said, I'm going to go to Bali. And my girlfriend goes, I'm going to go to Bali too. And we said, okay, we're going to bring a small group of women to Bali. Now, I've been a coach, but I had never been I'd never led a retreat. I don't even think at that point I'd ever been on a retreat with other women. And yet we did it. And so you speak it into being is number one. And then life shows up. So it's that filtering device where and you stay, I heard you say something about staying with an open, I call it open curiosity, about what shows up. And then the third is you take action, right? Because you can't and I think that's often what happens is that people feel paralyzed, actually paralyzed, because paralyzed by fear I remember that used to be me when if I had to speak, forget it. Now I speak on stages to a number of people and I love it. It's the vibe, it's the energy back and forth. But so speak it into being, sit with the curiosity. How's this all gonna unfold? And number three is just take action, just do it. Because when we take action, we get information. Is it resonating with ourselves and others? Or maybe we need to make tweaks along the way.
Taking action seems to be the part that a lot of them have trouble with. Okay. So,
And it's probably because of self-doubt and fear, right? We're so afraid of what others are going to think, or we're so afraid of failure. And what if we reframe failure? I mean, there's been whole books that have been written about failing forward. So when we come from, this is positive intelligence, when we come from the sage mind as opposed to the critical mind, the judgy mind, we live with a greater sense of purpose and curiosity and what if, playing the scenarios where we're like, what is it that, by the way, that Einstein said? He says one of the most important questions that we can ask is, do we live in a friendly universe? So if we truly believe that, we say things are always showing up for us for our highest and greatest good, even when they don't look good. Right? I'm thinking back to like my divorce where there was financial betrayal. At the time, it was crushing. And yet, it's one of the best things that's happened to me because I've learned how to stand up for myself. I've learned how to help others um, meet difficulties or big struggles with grace and grit. Yeah, it's made a huge difference in my life. In fact, I wrote about this in a chapter called Women Living in Alignment. It's the book. It's an anthology of multiple women overcoming difficulties to become the heroines of their story.
Maybe that has a lot to do with it then, because at 68, I don't really care what anybody thinks of me anymore. So it's like,
Yeah.
bring it. There's a poem out there. It used to be very popular when I was younger called "When I'm an Old Woman, I Shall Wear Purple." Yeah,
Yeah.
and I just kind of took that as my motto. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna do what I want to do. I'm gonna wear what I want to wear, and if you don't like it, feel free to unsubscribe, scroll on by, delete and block, whatever you think you need to do. Get out of my world because you obviously don't belong here. And it's
And,
worked
and,
for
you
me
know,
so far.
and it's funny you said that because once we realize that we're not going to be everybody's cup of tea, I mean, I don't think I want to be everybody's cup of tea. Then you become like this vanilla flavor, right? That just kind of blends in. But instead, you say, this is what makes me different. Like I remember when I came out as an intuitive, because I had some judgments about people were going to think that I was weird or um, what was I or not satanic, but against spirituality. Um, and I began to realize when we are a leader and we stand out with our own thumbprint, um, it's going to piss some people off, right? And but that's okay because when you're a leader, it's so easy for people to poke at who you be, and it says more about them than it does about you.
Well, I love that you help so many women find clarity, even when they have no idea about what comes next. So how do you do that? What are some of the tools or practices you use that can help them gain that clarity?
Yeah, so I've done this over a number of years, and I began to realize, okay, the visioning part is really important, and so I use it in a different way where I access your heart's wisdom, and so I blend dream building with heart math to gain clarity on what's calling you. And then the values I have found are really important. And it's not just about it's nice to have, it's like it's imperative to know yourself, to know what you hold to be most important. And it helps then to make those small and big decisions because we probably all experienced this where we have decision fatigue, where if you don't know who you are or what you need or what you want, then how in the world can you ever even ask for what you need and want or get support that you need? Okay, so the tools are visioning, which is actually pretty easy to do. It's a process of teasing out values. And then I've actually been using, once I understand what your values are, then we can actually create a being statement. So I like to say we live from an inside out. So, like, I know that I'm in my sweet spot when I am a compassionate, loving leader. So I know if I'm not leading into that, then I start going out into the weeds. So speaking up, being compassionate, coming from a nurturing, loving place. And then the thing that I've also included most recently that's been really powerful is human design. Are you familiar with that?
I am.
Yeah. So, for those of you who might be listening who aren't as well versed in it, it helps you to understand what your energy blueprint is. So, for example, I was born. It's a combination of the I Ching and astrology and a few different things. So that might seem a little bit woo, but I will just say it's a great point, right? Like I'm a manifester, and what that means is it's important for me to inform what direction I'm going and not ask permission. So do you happen to know what type you are, Melody Ann?
Not really. I just kind of started exploring it, so I'm familiar with it, but I haven't really dived into it yet. I just laugh though because I have this new little circle of friends is like kind of like I said, I'm in the process of reinvention myself, and I've got this new little circle of friends that I call my woo-woo friends because
Mhm.
I'm usually a very structured systems process kind of person, and I'm discovering more and more that there's more to it than that. So I have my new little circle of woo-woo friends. So to hear you say that, it was like, well, yeah, this is my newest woo-woo friend over here.
Yeah.
So,
But the interesting thing is I've been described as feet on the ground woo because somebody came over the other day, they were helping me organize my new office and she goes, wow, she goes, like how does she say it? She goes, you have high executive functioning. And I said, thank you. In other words, I can think, right? And organize thoughts and things. And yet I think this now that I've never quite said it this way before. But I think leaning into my woo allows me to realize that I am not just this physical form, but I'm like leaning into to information that much more information than my conscious mind has access to. So it allows me to like what did somebody say the other day? Because I can actually walk into a room and intuitively see images that like what the theme is in the room or where somebody is blocked. I can see it quickly and we can transform it quickly. Um, which I think that's an asset, right? You don't have to sit 10 years in psychotherapy or whatever, doing journaling and reading about it, where we can just address it, transform it, and move on.
well, like I said, I'm now just discovering this whole new side of me, and it's been fun, and it's been a little, I don't know a good way to put it, but yeah, they've even commented like I had a woman hypnotize me on my YouTube channel not too long ago because I swore up and down I could not be hypnotized, and I have never been able to before. Nobody's ever succeeded, but she did. She's like, I can cure your insomnia. She goes, I'm going to hypnotize you. And I was like, yeah, no, okay, you're not. She's, she says, will you film it? If I do it, will you film it? And I was like, okay, yeah, let's do it. And it was like, boom, I don't think we were 3 seconds into the whole thing. And I was like, but I did. I told her I would post it on my YouTube channel. And I immediately got a little bit of pushback, I guess, because up until then, all of my YouTube stuff had been very, this is how you do this. This is how you do this. Here's 3 tips to do this. This is how you do this. And all of a sudden, I've got this very, she's, 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 she's woo. Okay. There's no hiding it. She's woo. And they were like, what are you doing? And why are you doing this? And it took a lot of courage, I guess, to go, yeah, this is kind of where I'm going now. I'm sorry, but there's more to it than processes and systems. And I think having the courage to open myself up to that has made a big process. So how can we get other women to cultivate that? I'm always talking about be brave in my groups and in my programs. It's like be brave, be bold. How do we get them to cultivate that?
First of all, I have to say what's interesting. I'll say more about boldness, and I think this is a component to it. I'm kind of exploring it in my own mind as we're speaking, but it's accepting the fact, because what you were talking about is the masculine and the feminine energies, right? The structured masculine, the creative flowing of the feminine, and they coexist within us, within our society. But we have had a predominance of masculine drive in our culture, right? So, okay, so the boldness part of it. So, our boldness is going to be a little different than the masculine model. It's trusting, I would say what's being bold is trusting our intuition, trusting our, and if that's too fancy a word, but trusting our inner knowing. I remember even before I knew I was a uh, intuitive, I'd be in corporate and I would like, I sit in the boardroom and I'm like, that's crazy, but I can't exactly tell you why that's like this. Like, it was so much ego BS. And I was like, it was clear to me that somebody was doing their own agenda and like nobody else was speaking up, you know? So that was my inner knowing that couldn't actually find the words. So you're saying, how do we step into our boldness? But maybe it's bold to be able to trust ourselves enough to speak up, to say we have needs And we see an alternative. Like if I could give advice to the younger version of me that was in corporate, is trust yourself and speak up. Because I think that's what happens is that women don't even know what they need or want. So how could they possibly um, speak up? And I guess I'll just say this is going along the line of being an inner rebel in a culture that teaches us that um, we're loud and brash or bitchy if we speak up, is how counterculture that is to speak up, to get clear on what we need, and to actually give voice to the craziness that like that. I told somebody the other day, she's on my board, and she goes, that makes no sense. And I go, well, thank you for saying that. We sit around and she didn't say, oh, I help me understand that. She just said, that makes no sense. Why would we do that? So speaking up and trusting our inner knowing, because we have an inner compass inside of us. But often I think we have been taught to stifle that, to put it in a box and not be too much. So allowing it a little bit more spaciousness and to hang out with others who value that contribution as well. And I think that's what you're doing is you're surrounding yourself right now with people who are like, bring it, bring more of it.
Well, I have to admit, what made me reach out to you and ask if you wanted to be on my podcast is we were both on a Zoom call with a group of women, and you were talking about juicy aliveness. Okay. And I was like, what is that? Okay. I've never quite heard it put that way. Juicy aliveness. I fell in love with it like right then and there and said, I got to get her on here. What is juicy aliveness? So please, what is juicy aliveness and how do we get that?
Well, thank you for asking. And this actually came up for me. It's intuitive knowing. I was preparing for a talk and I got, what is it that I'm really a stand for? And it's about this sense of exuberance in our life. Because what I noticed is that it was like people were comatose almost, like settling. And I know I was at one point too. Like the contrast here was when I was in my marriage and I was raising my kids, I didn't want to rock the boat. I was willing to put my needs on the back burner. And I began to realize, well, if I'm not happy, what do they say? If mama's not happy, the whole family isn't happy. And I began to realize, okay, it's okay to ask for what I need. It's okay to ask for what I want. So that juicy aliveness means asking, how do I lead with a sense of joy? How do I lead with a sense of love and compassion for myself? And so that I allow my aliveness to come through because I know that during that period of time I was stifling myself. I was deadening my energy. And yet there's a place, which by the way is right outside of our comfort zone, right?
Of
That
course it
allows,
is.
right, that allows us to experience that sense. Think of something that maybe you've tried new. Maybe it was this new experience, or it was, yeah, getting outside your comfort zone. That's where we find that sense of, ooh, this I haven't seen. Or even when we travel, that's a great example, actually. When we're outside of our comfort zone in when we travel, there's a sense of heightening our senses. There's another awareness of stuff that's going on, and maybe a sense of curiosity, like that's not the way I do it, but there's a sense of curiosity and an openness. And so that's what happens when we live life in a way of, rather than being in the judgy mind, the critical mind that tells us that we're not enough, that we'll never be enough, that our dreams aren't worthy, that we aren't worthy, we begin to shift the narrative and we say, no, this is a God-given ability to see things differently than other people. And this, I guess, actually stepping into our own body, trusting our own body, and then stepping into our own life of our own making, not the one that somebody else had given us as a coat that didn't fit.
Cool. I love it. I love that term. Just be aliveness. I love it.
Tell me what it
Um,
feels like in your body when you say that, juicy
it
alive.
just feels fun. It just feels and it feels fun.
Yeah.
And I don't know, just light and freeing and it's like I said, every time I say it, it just like brings this little energy burst of, well, that's just fun.
And I didn't think about it till this just until right now, but I realized that how there's that thing make when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. So it's like squeezing the most out of life. And even when it looks sucky to be able to say, I'm gonna make lemonade out of this. I'm gonna make something joyous. I'm gonna make something that's impactful and truly a reflection of me. Because that's often what happens is we get pushed up against something that doesn't fit us, and it's in reaction to that that we create something that we truly adore.
So can we talk a little bit about energy work? Because I know you said you've done some energy work, and I have just recently been with working with a couple of women who do, and I was amazed, to be honest, at what they were capable of because I was a huge skeptic. I admit, big skeptic here. I have since acknowledged that there may be more to it than I was willing to admit. Um, let's just say I was totally impressed by how quickly she was able to tell me some things about myself that I was like, wow, how did you know that? Like, even to be able to tell me things that I had been thinking about myself.
Yeah.
And she was like, this, and this. I was like, wow, because I just had this thought myself the other day. So I'm a skeptic on the road to becoming a believer.
Yeah, no, I get it. So when I think of energy work, I think of two things. Think about tuning in to a current that is underneath this physical form. And if so, when you tune into like quantum physics, you realize that is it a wave, is it a particle, and it shifts based on the perceiver. They know that, right? And so that ability to, so two things. My mom asked me, by the way, she said, how is it that you do what you do? And I said, well, Mom, do you know how how you can hear the radio from radio waves? She goes, no, not really. I go, yeah, I don't know how this works either. But it's like tuning in the dial and tuning. So I was doing a group session yesterday. I was doing a mini presentation and there were about 15 people 15 women in the group. And I said, would you like to tune into a greater sense of abundance? And abundance can be anything. It could be a sense of time, spaciousness. It could be wealth. It could be health. It could be anything that you can conceive, right? Connection. And I said, so get clear about what your intention is. And so they got clear on their intention. And I said, okay, great. Based on what that intention is, we're going to help to transform that belief. And what came through, because it's a mind, body, spirit, like a cellular stuff. So I never know what's going to come up. But in that session, it was transforming the beliefs about themselves and helping them to realize their past does not have to define them, that the future has greater possibility for them. So it was a belief. And then it was also about having them visualize um, greater possibilities for themselves in their lives. And every single person in that room got a message. So it's having people tune into themselves. But I just happen to have the ability to read a room and get a vision. So like even as I'm tuning in right now to the energy that's on our call, it's like there's some tightness in the solar plexus, which is the area below the chest. And so those who are listening may actually be asking the question, who am I? Because I happen to know that there's certain areas in the body that speak that have blockages or calling attention to them because that's the area that needs our attention. So I might ask somebody if I was working with them. So I feel some tenseness in your solar plexus area. What is it wanting to know about you? You know, what is it wanting to say to you right now? And maybe it has the question, who am I? So who are you? Do you follow? So that your body is always sending out signals. It's just a matter of some of us who have been trained. I was actually trained by somebody who was at Stanford, who was studying molecular biology, the Human Genome Project, actually, at Stanford. And she was teaching me how to do this intuitive stuff. So, and I've also been trained by people who were paid by the government to do remote viewing. So even the government, maybe one of our largest skeptics, has for years paid people to have these, I'll call it extra sensory perception, these abilities.
Like I said, I am well on the road to acknowledging that there's a little more to it than I would have, because I worked with some researchers in a biotech firm that were on the human genome but I worked on this is the science of it. Okay, we're all science over here, and so to be able to start acknowledging that, oh yeah, maybe it's not all systems and processes and science. Maybe there's a little more to it than, it's been a shift for me, but an
Yeah, it's
interesting one.
this and more, right? I find I just turned 60 recently, and I found that there's still so much to learn. You know, even totally putting putting myself in the psychotherapy and studying quantum physics and energy, and there's still more to learn. And I think that's what makes life juicy.
So you encourage women to own their queen. It's kind of like I always tell them to own their inner rebel, own their queen. It's kind of the same
Right.
thing. What is exactly does that mean to you? And so many women out there are in, the world is crazy right now. Let's just be real about it, okay? I'm saying it on the air. Yes, the world is crazy right now. And so many women are in survival mode. So, how can we help them do that? What does it mean to own their queen? And how can we help them step into that?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I have to say, I came up with this concept. Some might call it even stepping into their goddess to realize that they are a god spark. But I came up with the archetype of owning their queen because I began to realize when we abdicate uh, mm, control over our own life, then we're basically saying, I'm like, I'm a peasant, or, you know, I'm not really taking control of our life, you know, and we've been sold a bill of goods with our nursery rhymes that women are not complete unless they have a man or they're rescued by a man. What if you are the answer, right? What if you are the one that gets to decide, this is my queendom? And the image I actually have is of a woman. She's in a gold lame dress and she's standing on the edge of, let's see, like the edge of the ocean. It's overlooking a cliff. And she has her hand out here. In other words, and their hand is coming like from her heart. So it's that ability to be able to have an open heart, but also have a clear direction and what direction she's going, and she's on the edge of the ocean, which is the ocean comes in and the ocean comes out. It's kind of like life, right? Opportunities come, and then there's the ebb and flow of energy, of life, and so on. So that ability to own your queen means that you have sovereignty. You have so many people talk about freedom. So you have the freedom to choose what's right for you and to go after. And some might say, well, that's a big concept. Like, I'm just trying to get by. But what if you were able to simplify your life to be able to say, what are the most important things for me, it's building deep relationship, having a relationship with source, and feeling like I'm making an impact in my life. And it's also has something to do with environmentally sound practices. So for us to build a conscious planet, so that ability for us to own what's really important to us and to be clear in our values, I think that's really what owning our queen is about, is to be able to stand into that archetype or that image of I'm providing leadership and direction for my life. And I'm certainly, I like to say I'm the benevolent queen. I'm not the one with, what was it, Alice in Wonderland, where she's off with her head.
Uh, no, as soon as you started talking about that, I was thinking of, I don't know if I'm a nerd way back. So I remember the scene in The Lord of the Rings where Galadriel's like, I will be when she gets offered the ring. Have you ever read The Lord of the Rings?
I have, but it's been a
Yeah.
number of years.
And Galadriel's offered the ring, and she's like, she would be this beautiful and powerful queen, and everyone would love her, but she would still be affected by the ring. So maybe not so benevolent.
She chose not to.
Yeah, she chose not to. She had courage. She owned her queen. She was like able to say, nope, don't want that power.
And isn't that interesting? So to say no when we mean no, and yes when we mean yes, because really we've been trained or programmed to stay stifled. And so I guess that's really what it is. It's stepping out of the norm and saying, I'm clear what I stand for.
So how do we do what's a habit or a mindset shift um, that you have found that really helps women feel more powerful, more queenly in midlife? Because midlife is it's a tough time. And yes, I know 68 people like you're not midlife. Yeah, no, I'm tend to be like I plan to live to be 100, like 140 at least. So I'm midlife. Sorry. Okay. 68 is the new 30.
Yeah, girl, I love that.
So what are some things that we can do, a habit, a mindset shift, something that can help women just feel more powerful and stop with the I'm 60, I'm old.
Yeah, it's funny. I think I was thinking about the habit or mindset. And for me, it feels like meditating is one of the most transformative tools. I've been a long time meditator. And and I think what that allows us to do, and I meditate each morning, and I think that allows us then to have a greater sense of observer awareness of what's going on around us. And we can realize where we're at choice. And it also helps to be able to have a greater sense of rising above the circumstances. So maybe that's the difference between thrival and survival. We begin to see, and I also think so two practices. One is the meditation, which allows us to have a deeper sense of calm and calm in the nervous system so we can see greater possibilities. But also gratitude, I would say, is a mindset to be able, and sometimes people are shocked when I ask them this question, but I say, what are you grateful for? What are you celebrating? Actually, the celebration question is the interesting one. We have something to celebrate every day, and it puts a joyful spirit in our heart and in our mind, and to be always on the lookout. But often we just do stuff and we one and done, and then we move on. But when I ask people the question, what are you celebrating today? What have you accomplished that you're particularly proud of? That's a transformative act of being on the lookout for the good that's happening.
I love that you mentioned meditation because that is just so I never did. Uh, Again, that was one of those woo things that
Yeah.
like and then who got me meditating? I don't remember. Somebody convinced me that scientifically meditation was good.
Oh, yeah. This
So
probably,
I
yeah.
started and I was in a workshop and the woman that was running the workshop wanted us to come back the next day and to the workshop and share our mission. And I'm just sitting there like, I don't have a mission. My mission is to I want to make money. Okay. I want to make
Yeah.
money. And that's not I said I can't go into this room full of women who are gonna have all these lofty missions and go, yeah, I just want to make money. Okay. So so I was like, okay, I don't know. Maybe I just won't go tomorrow, whatever. I don't know. That'll be embarrassing. I'm just not gonna go. So I started doing my meditation for the evening. And it was like, I don't know, this little voice, like, you're going to start this group of women and it's going to be called the Rebel. I mean, it all just came in this meditation. And I was like, okay, I meditate now. Okay. Like regularly, because it opens up all of this. I don't know if you've been carrying it inside you all this time and you just open yourself to it or what. I don't know how it works, but I get some of my best ideas in the middle of my morning meditations now. They just kind of come. How does that work? Why is that happening?
I don't know how it happens or why it does, but the only thing I can say is it's maybe creating a space of receptivity because if your day is like my day, I hit the ground running, right? And so we're either on calls or we're taking care of the laundry or we're on podcasts, you know, and or networking events or it's so many things that are busy in our day, but it's a time in our day when our mind actually has an opportunity to be quiet enough to be receptive to maybe those bubbling up ideas. I don't know whether it comes from inside of us or it's divine inspiration, but maybe that's God's opportunity to plant the seeds of what's possible. But it's really hard in our day-to-day life to find that space, that spaciousness, to actually listen, right? Unless we do create the space, the habit, let's say, of meditation.
Maybe that's it. I don't know. All I know is I owe my entire business that's happening now to a woman who asked me the question in a workshop of, what's your mission? Because I went back to think about it and started meditating about it. And even though I wasn't consciously meditating about that, because I'd already decided, yeah, I don't have one, I think maybe subconsciously I was it was still
Yeah.
there, that question. And in the course of meditating, I found it, I was given it, I don't know, whatever. But anyway, big believer in meditation.
Our mind is like that, though, isn't it? Einstein actually had a process where he said that if he had a big problem that he needed to find a solution, he would spend like 95% of the time coming up with the right question, and then that last portion of the time actually hearing the solution. Because when we ask the right questions, mission is one of them. Values is another. What is it you stand for is another. But when we have the right questions, it helps to filter the thought process, so we find the answers.
Maybe that's it. I
It's
don't
my
know.
inner,
But anyway, hey,
yeah.
anybody who's on my podcast or listening knows that I have the sketchiest internet in the world. So they are used to whatever happens. Okay. I live at
Might
the
be
far end of a dirt road, and some days
okay.
it's good and some days it's not. And we just, unless it gets really, really horrible, we just keep going.
I love it.
So let's see if we can give some help to the ladies out there that are listening. I know that in my own little group, I have quite a few women. That's why they're part of this now. They feel left behind. They feel uncertain. They feel lost. What do you most want them to know?
Mm. I would say the power of sisterhood. When we're the most lost, it's helpful to have people that can reflect back for us greater possibilities, whether it's inspiring us to stay in the game or whether it's to witness what's going on for us. I just think back to those times again and again where I've either struggled in my business or in my personal life. And it's the sisterhood that has helped to surround myself with the right people that can uplift and inspire and really have a belief in me so that I can rise above my own noxious thoughts here, right?
That's you keep harking. I don't know. You just keep talking about things that I've been having conversations with other women lately about that same thing. So you and I just need to talk about how we're so connected suddenly because I just had a conversation with some women the other day about the importance of sisterhood and why is it lacking compared to when I was younger.
Oh,
it's not there anymore like it used to be, or I
yeah.
don't see it anyway.
I have some thoughts on that. So I created a group called Nurture Radiance, Be Unstoppable, a membership, because I began to realize that leaning into support was one of our superpowers and not something to be. So our culture was built on that sense of individualization, right? Like our singular person is more important than um, the group. And I think what's happened is because of I'll call it the image trap, and it's like this, people feel like it's not safe to be in circle, let's say a women's circle. There's some of that, but then when they come to my circles, and I'm guessing to your space too, they begin to realize that it is safe to be authentically themselves. It is okay to have a counter cultural experience of what they want to be, what's important to them. So there's a sense of sharing. I love this conversation. I look forward to having an offline conversation with you because this is where the inspiration comes. This is where the juice is, right? Is allowing it to flow and see where the synchronicities are.
So can you share something? I know meditation we talked about as being one, some kind of just something they can do every day, a ritual, a practice, something that they can do every day to just try and reconnect with at least a little bit of joy or a sense of purpose, something.
Yeah. And I would say, so I have a journaling practice and this is one of the things that I invite my clients to do too. And it's a 2-page document, but I would just say the two top questions that I ask them to write out is come up with 3 to 5 things every day, which are it's looking for evidence that things are working because it helps our filtering device. It helps the muscle to continue to be on the outlook for things that are working. So, um, so for an example, the fact that we connected on a call. I mean, I could not have planned that. My conscious mind could not have said I was going to show up on one of our networking calls and that we were going to be having this delicious conversation. But my intention was to be in connection and to be of service. And as a result of that, I'm in deep gratitude that things are working out because you and I have had this opportunity to have this conversation. So that's an example of both gratitude and also evidence that things are working out. So deep gratitude for you and how you show up and your sense of being inquisitive and having a forum where women can explore living with Juicy Life is living outside the box. So those two practices, looking for evidence and gratitude, I would say. And then I would say if there was a third thing on the morning practice was ask. Ask for what you need.
Mm.
So, for example, it might be something technology, or it may be connections, or it may be the ability to get in touch with somebody that, like, I was putting out a program recently, and I was so intimidated by the tech, and so I put it out there to my people, my network of women. Who do you know that can support me in the back end of this? And I had a laundry list of people. So gratitude and asking.
Well, that is fabulous because I don't think enough of us know how to ask. We're used to being the asked of, not the asker. So I think that's a little difficult for most women. unfortunately. So what's next for you? Any exciting projects, offerings, anything we should be watching for?
Oh, I have to say, I'm so excited. So I started doing retreats again. So I have a
Oh,
retreat
cool.
coming up at Mount Madonna down the road in Watsonville at the end of October. And that's all about the concept of reclaiming your light and discarding some of the stories that have kept you feeling less than or your light dimmed. So I have a few practitioners that are going to be working with me on that, and it's in the Redwoods, so it's really nice. And then I'm taking a group to Thailand next year. I haven't
Oh,
decided what the name
fun.
of it is, but we're going to be going to an elephant sanctuary, and we're going
Oh,
to a beautiful Buddhist temple area. So it has a little bit of spirituality in it. It has a little bit of cultural awareness in it. And I'm cooking that up right now and inviting women into a deeper experience of no, just trusting themselves, really.
how cool is that? Huh. My mom loved elephants. It was kind of her thing. So yeah, elephants. There's some kind of significance, she said, because she was woo before it was cool. Okay.
So the significance of the elephant, let me see if I have it in here. I guess not. I'm looking in my office. Oh, he's across the way. So it's Ganesha, which is the remover of obstacles. So it's, I guess, a Hindu god that is supposed to help pave the way or easy access to our abundance or whatever that is. So Ganesha is in fact, I do have it if you want me to grab it, but it's when I went to Bali, I ended up getting this beautiful wood carving of the elephant Ganesha.
That's cool. I had no idea. All I remember growing up was that we had elephants everywhere. She loved them, and she was kind of out there. Love you, mom, but you were a little woo. Okay. So where can our ladies connect with you if they want to learn more about what you do and your work?
Yeah, I guess I haven't even mentioned to it. My business name is Keys to Empowerment, and I'm actually in the process of revamping my website, but it has enough information on there so you can kind of get a flavor of what I'm up to. And I'm also on social media as Carrie Ascension Helms, or you can just look it up as Carrie Helms and also on LinkedIn. And and I also have something that I would like your listeners to have an opportunity to kind of tape their experience. I like to call it, it's okay if I speak out loud, right, about some crazy thoughts I have. I want them to be able, just taking the conversation we've had today is like mental masturbation, where it feels good, but they don't do anything about it, and actually put things into action. So I have a quiz on my website, which is called Up Level Your Brilliance, or a brilliance quiz, and it helps you to figure out where you stopped yourself and how you can begin to transform those sticky spots, let's call it, so you can own your brilliance. So if that speaks to you, then I can either put it in the notes, I can give a link to the brilliance quiz, or look it up on my website, Keys to Empowerment.
Yeah, I will put links to all of that in the program notes, and I love that terminology, by the way, because it's so descriptive of exactly what it is. Okay, so I love it. I love your play with words, juicy aliveness, mental mastery. I love it.
And sometimes I'm a little bit like, should I say that? But can we relate to that? That sense of you read a book or you listen to a podcast and it feels really good, but you don't do anything about it. So it's not really moving the conversation forward.
Yeah. Uh, Used to be guilty as charged. I remember that conversation where I was asked, so how many courses do you have that you've purchased or even gotten for free sitting on your computer? How many of them have you done more than one lesson? Like, don't ask that question. Bad question to ask.
Yeah, yeah. So
So
I can,
last but go
yeah,
ahead.
go for it.
I was just gonna say because we're kind of we're doing the usual. I tell all my guests 30 minutes tops, and we're well over an hour now because that's how we roll when we're having a good conversation. So I was just going to kind of wrap it up a little bit by asking for a piece of advice that you would give any of the women listening that are ready to rewrite their story.
I guess I'm just going to say, and it seems like a culmination of what we've been talking about today, is be loud and proud. Own your story. Own the fact that you're going to look a little different than somebody else. In fact, in a world that has maybe invited us or suppressed our ability to be unique and different, or even suppressed our ability to be full out feminine, right? Um, and a rebellious act is for us to get clear on our needs and to be loud and proud and contributors to what's going on. If we see something that's not working, then say. If you see somebody that you're particularly inspired by, share with them, so that we're always on the lookout for how to keep each other elevated and supported.
And I think that's pretty much basically it. Just do it, ladies. Just everything she's been telling you. I don't know about you, but I feel like I just got validation to just keep doing what I'm doing, live bolder, live deeper, and with a whole lot more juicy aliveness. I just love when I get to say that.
Love
So
that
a
you
huge
find joy.
thank you, Carrie. I'm sorry, I just love it. I love words. Words are my thing. I'm a writer, so I love words. So a huge thank you for sharing all your wisdom and magic with us today. And if you guys, ladies, if you are ready to step into your next chapter, here's your chance. Reach out to Carrie, check out everything she's doing. I'm going to put her links in the show notes. Just it's time. If you can't do it with me, and I freely admit some of you cannot do it with me, and I don't have a problem with that. Go do it with her, but go do it. Okay, go do it. Don't forget your
Right.
story isn't over. Okay, it's not over. It's just getting good. So until next time, you know I always say it, embrace that inner rebel and keep on being you. Thanks,
I love.
ladies.
Thank you. Be well.